This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 55 of the Jumblethink Podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast, a podcast about the story of ideas. We talk to leading dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers to learn the story behind their big ideas and dreams and how they made them a reality. Along the way, we'll give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big ideas and dreams and change the world around you. Today on the podcast, we're talking all about persona versus authenticity. It's going to be a lot of fun. I am super excited about Thursday's episode. Our guest is Troy Christopher Plota. Troy is an award-winning professional photographer. His work's been used by Vanity Fair, GQ, Rolling Stone, New York City, Times Square billboards, and he's also a tech entrepreneur with a new startup called Plotaverse. It is a cool startup all around photography and building a community doing innovative things around images. Make sure to check out Thursday's episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know I had a lot of fun talking to Troy. I think you're going to have a lot of fun listening to that episode. So check out Thursday's episode with Troy Christopher Plota. Now let's jump into today's episode. Hey there, welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host, and I think we have a pretty great episode lined up for you today about a really important topic. Before we dive into that, I want to encourage you, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, head on over there, search for the Jumblethink Podcast, and click that subscribe button. We've made it even easier for you. If you like listening on iTunes, all you have to do is go to jumblethink.com/iTunes, and for Spotify, jumblethink.com/Spotify. When you go to those links, it will take you right to the app, right to the page for the Jumblethink Podcast, and all you have to do is click that subscribe button. So do it right now. Go on over to wherever you like to listen to podcasts and click the subscribe button. Today on the podcast, we're changing it up. I like to do this every couple of weeks. It's been a while, but today I'm taking over the episode and talking about a topic I think is important, both for you and for me, and culturally where we are in this influencer economy. We're talking persona versus authenticity. What are they? How do we navigate it? Can they coexist? How do we live our lives in this influencer economy, in this creator space where persona and authenticity are critical to what we're doing? Now, this topic has been on my mind for several months. Last week, though, I was driving to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for a meeting with a client, listening to NPR, which I love listening to if I'm not listening to killer music or other podcasts. They're talking about in their story top 40 or 50 influencers in the sports space. They're talking not just athletes, but general managers, coaches, executives, media personalities. They're talking about one specific guy and how he's killing it and becoming this massive sports influencer. Here's what struck me. They start saying about this guy, this social media star, that he's created this persona. He's crafted this character he plays, that he's putting on this awesome show and people are loving it and everyone's listening and it's so, so awesome. And the host asks the guest, what makes this person so great? Why are people loving him? And they're like, well, it's his authenticity. And I'm sitting there going, what in the world are you talking about? For the last 3 minutes, you just said that he's crafted this character, he's crafted this persona, he's created this show, this shtick that he's putting on, and now you're saying it's his authenticity? Well, that's just a load of junk there. It's not true. Either he's put on a character or he's being authentic. It's not both. And this just set me off thinking about our culture right now in this influencer space and how we're saying about we've got to curate our content on Instagram. We've got to curate our personality on Facebook. We've got to curate what we say on our podcasts or our vlogs. And I'm just listening to this going, well, that's not authentic. That's a persona. That's an actor. And you can't be an actor and be authentic in what you're showing. All right. So now I've just completely laid out the foundation for why we're talking about this today. Persona and authenticity, we're love drunk on this stuff. We're always talking about crafting the perfect caricature of ourselves. We're trying to present ourselves as something we're not. I hear it every day with people talking about how they've made their millions, they made their successes, and how they were this overnight success. It's a load of garbage. You need to stop listening to it. But what do you need to listen to? We need to talk about the truth in persona and the truth in authenticity. So let's go a little bit deeper now. When doing episodes like this, I like to make sure that we're all speaking the same lingo, we're all saying the same thing. So let's define these two words. The first word, of course, is persona, which can be defined as the aspect of someone's character that is presented or perceived by others. It can also be a role or character adopted by an author or an actor. Synonyms include an image, a face, a public face, a character, a personality, identity, or self. It comes from the Latin, which means to mask, to create character, or to be played by an actor. A matter of fact, this word has become so big that since the 1960s, we've seen an increase of this word in our popular vocabulary by over 30%. Now, going a little bit deeper, I love this. Carl Jung, who is a famous psychologist, he actually says this. This is verbatim what he talks about in his philosophies. People may choose to wear social masks or personas to make themselves appear more socially desirable. This is used to impress members of the opposite sex or to make new friends. People can have multiple personas that they use in various situations. This can include work, being with friends, at home. Depending on the person, stronger personas can be created because they put higher emphasis on specific social interactions. He even went on to warn about personas and how they can actually become our true identity if we don't understand how we're utilizing them in our lives. Okay, so persona is pretty important and significant, but what about authenticity? Let's go a little bit deeper into that, and then we're going to marry the two together. So authenticity can be defined as the quality of being authentic. Don't you love when they define words with words? Okay, so how do we define authentic then? Authentic is of undisputed origin, genuine. Synonyms can be defined as genuine, real, bona fide, or true. It can be based on facts, accurate, or reliable. That's another definition. And the final definition is in existentialism, which is a philosophy. They define it as relating to or denoting an emotionally significant, purposeful, and responsible mode of human life. Now, I love that because it's really defining how we live our lives, just like persona also defines how we live our lives. On the flip side, while persona has raised about 30% since the 1960s, authenticity, the use of the word, has raised by about 40%, which is about the same. Now, here's where things get a little tricky. I'm going to go a little bit deeper from this, and I'm going to base my own personal beliefs, my presupposition, my biases on how we should navigate this world of persona and this world of authenticity, what it means and how we should operate as influencers, as mover and shakers, as dreamers, as entrepreneurs. This is so important to how we face the world. Now, here is where things get a little tricky. I'm going to start sharing my own thoughts and interpretations of this. Some of you are going to love this and agree. Some are going to hate it, but you're going to see my biases, my beliefs, my compass, and how I live the world shown out through what I share next. So there's your bias alert. I'm sure you've already picked up that I am not a massive fan of how we use persona in our lives today. For me, I think we're selling out. We're selling short of our full potential. I find nothing wrong with looking for a goal, an end objective, and working hard to get there. But what we've done is we've taken data, we've taken the end goal, and we've created an image that drives us quickly to our end goal. And in doing that, often we're selling ourselves short for our full potential and what we have to offer this world. We're also selling our beliefs and our values. We're compromising ourselves to get to a goal. And these things, I think, are significantly hurting our culture and our civilization. We see it all the time in influencer spaces and creator spaces where we're crafting an image when we're talking to people, and when we're sharing our story, we're leaving out a lot of facts and truths about the story. We're leaving out the full picture. We're customizing our images on Instagram or the narrative that we tell on Facebook, which is different than the art of storytelling when authenticity is brought into it. Now, at Jumblethink, we've done 155 episodes, which is so insane. We've talked to a lot of people. Outside of Jumblethink, the podcast, we have lots of clients we've worked with. We've met thought leaders. We've shared ideas with authors. We've talked about a bunch of topics. But what always shocks me, what always amazes me, is when I meet with someone who I watch their presentations at a TED Talk or their interviews on a podcast or a radio show or on TV or videos that they've created. And the person I see in front of me when I'm off camera or off the podcast from them doesn't line up with who they are when we click record or who they are when they get in front of a whole lot of people. So how do you reconcile that? How do you really navigate that issue? Because it's hard. You want to be liked. You want to be accepted. You want to be embraced by this culture of influence, this culture of power is really what it is, a culture of significance where we're finding value from something, from somewhere, from somebody. Well, this is where authenticity really kicks in, and along with authenticity comes a very hated thing, and that's vulnerability and transparency. When you get out of the lane of living your character to the world and start living the world through who you are, warts, wounds, bad breath, whatever it is that you got going on, when you start facing the world with the truth of who you are, when you start approaching it from the place of authenticity over persona, there's a lot of challenges to navigate. But I think that the trade-off of what you gain in that authenticity for the long haul is super powerful. Recently, I was on a podcast, it's coming out soon, and we talk about playing for the long game. It's something that I've really been just becoming more and more passionate about. So often, us creators, us podcasters, our vloggers, or whatever we are, we're looking for the quick success, and we give up when things don't go well, or we put a persona on to better sell ourselves so others will buy into what we're selling. But if you're playing for the long game, you gain so much more. What are the things you might gain? Well, first off, you gain integrity. You're keeping true to yourself. You're keeping true to who you are, the personality you are, your good strengths, your weaknesses. You are gaining the process of learning and growing and evolving. You also gain friendship. So often when we rapidly grow or when we live in a place of persona versus authenticity, what we find is that people like the persona, but they don't like the person. Well, when you play the game of authenticity, when you live an authentic life, you find that the friends that you have are genuine and they're there for the long haul. I can think of times where people wanted to be around me because of the successes we were having, whether it was with our business or other things that we were doing. But as soon as things got tough, they were the first to check out. They were the first to give up and say it's not worth the battle. But true friends that come from a place of authenticity, they will hang tight with you, closer than a brother, as one scripture text puts it. And in that, you find truth. You find truth of friendship. You find truth of your message. You find truth of who you are in identity. You gain a true identity that is rock solid, that is not shaken by circumstance. You gain so much more in that authentic place. And in the end, you gain something truly worth the sacrifice. When we're living in a persona, we will shift our values. We will shift what we're fighting for. We will shift what we believe based on what's popular or what gets us accepted or gets us into the right position. When you live in a place of authenticity, you are playing for that long game to say, even when I'm rejected for what I believe in or who I am right now, I am playing for the long term, and the success will come and it will be worth it. There's this song written by this lady named Rita Springer, and it talks about it being worth it all. And so often we give up our authenticity, our truth, our beliefs, because things aren't easy in the moment. But when you're living that authentic life, when your foundation's on that rock of authenticity, then you have a foundation that whether things are good, whether things are bad, you get on the other side and it's all worth it because you've been true through that season. In preparation for today's episode, I was reading some articles. One of them I loved was from HBR, Harvard Business Review. It was reposted and summed up by Huffington Post. They listed 5 traits, 5 characteristics of authentic people. I thought it was super powerful. I wanted to share it with you in today's episode as we wrap up. So number 1, confidence. They said this was so significant. It's that self-confidence of certainty of knowing you and being certain about how you present yourself in the world because of that foundation of understanding yourself. Number 2, they talk about mindfulness. It's being mindful about the things going on inside of you, the issues, the struggles, the heartache, the victories, the celebrations, the joy, and also beyond the mindfulness of yourself, it's also being mindful of others around you and understanding what's going on around you and being aware of it, which leads to number 3 really well, and that's compassion. They're compassionate for others. That doesn't mean that they walk on eggshells or they just approach the world and say, well, I'm not going to deal with hard situations. I'm just going to love people. Part of love is addressing tough situations, tough issues with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers, with your boss, with the people you love, with the people you hate. It's showing compassion in those situations which are really hard to navigate, but showing compassion and walking through that. Number 4 is self-respect. Understanding your own value and respecting yourself, not letting others take advantage of you, not letting others define you, and really respecting that who you are is enough in this world. And because you know that, you can live yourself with authenticity, with the trueness of yourself to the world. And finally, number 5, they live their lives with extreme courage. Courage to approach hard situations because they know the traits and identity in which they operate from. So, recapping that: confidence, mindfulness, compassion, self-respect, and courage. For me, that's the kind of person I want to become. I want that authenticity of that kind of lifestyle. But I also want to be around people like that, other creators, other influencers that live in this place that this is how they operate. This is who they are. And who they are is enough for themselves, and it's enough for how they offer themselves up to the world. Now, you may be listening and saying, that's all fun and good, but the rubber's got to hit the road. And I've really got to make some changes. I am sick of this persona-based driven culture. I want to make a difference. Well, it starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with others who are willing to say, forget this persona stuff and let's move into a place of authenticity. How do you do it? What do you need to do next? The first step, the best step that you can do, is sit down and think of people who you look to and you just go, oh, they're so honest. They're so transparent. They're so real. And every time I'm around them, they pull the best out of me. They challenge me to grow in the places that I'm weak. And I just feel so much better being around them, not because they're fake, but because they're authentic and they're real and they see my persona, they see past my persona, and they pull it out. So think of that person or people and start getting around them a lot more. Start becoming more like them, not copying them, not creating a new persona, but being transparent and vulnerable and honest to the world. Start having them challenge you and call out the identity and the truth of your identity and say, this is who you are. This is who you're created to be. And you have so much to offer, and let them pull that out. And let them challenge the areas where you're bad. Let them say, hey, you need to grow up here. Hey, you need to fix this. Hey, you've got a blind spot here and you need to fix it. You need to address it. Get around those people. Let them challenge you. Maybe it starts as one person, but as you grow a culture of this authenticity, this super authenticity, what you'll end up doing is creating a community of others like you. I can think of people throughout my life that I loved being around because they had certainty of who they were and they were operating from a place of authenticity. Now, here's the thing. They weren't perfect. They weren't superhuman. They weren't anything actually all that special. They were just authentic. They were themselves, and they were confident in their identity and how they faced the world. So get around those people. Become a part of that culture. Become a part of that community. And go deep into the place of becoming authentic. So there we have it. That is persona versus authenticity as I see it today. I hope it's encouraged you on this journey of really diving deeper into what you think and what you believe and moving past persona into authenticity. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I'm right. I want to hear from you either way. Drop us a note, mike@jumblethink.com. Find us on Facebook or Instagram. Let's connect. Let's continue having this conversation and go so much deeper to challenge us to really become the fullness of all we can become. Thanks so much for tuning into today's episode. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I have a couple more episodes you may want to check out. Here they are. In Season 2, Episode 49, our guest was Ryan Williams. We talked so much more about a true influencer, what it means to be an influencer, and how you can set yourself up to be an authentic influencer. Also, one of our favorite guests is Season 2, Episode 48, the episode right before Ryan's, Phil Rosenthal. He is one of the most authentic people I've ever met when it comes to what you see is what you get. He is such a beautiful person and just incredible. One of the other episodes you may want to check out is Season 2, Episode 9, Finding Your Born Identity. In this episode, I go deeper into identity and how it's the foundation of big ideas, big dreams, and how you can change the world around you. I am super excited about Thursday's guest. His name is Troy Christopher Plota. He's the founder of Plotaverse. They're doing super cool stuff and building a community around a digital sharing platform with photos and moving photos and so much more. He's also an award-winning professional photographer. His work's been used by Vanity Fair, GQ, Rolling Stone. You could even see it on the billboards in Times Square in New York City. In the episode, we talk about the importance of collaboration, creating a tech startup, photography in the industry of photography, and how technology is changing it. And we go into his TED Talk, which was all about the future of photography. Make sure to check out that episode on Thursday. Now, I want to encourage you as we wrap up today's episode, really take and think about this conversation of persona versus authenticity. Think about how you live and how you approach the world. Think about how maybe you can change, or if you're doing things well, how you can continue to grow. Until next time, I want to encourage you to take a step, any step, a big step, a small step, but move forward in chasing those big ideas and dreams you have and changing the world around you.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps. Vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.